If my life depended on it, if I was being held hostage with a gun to my head, here is exactly how I would make any coach, no matter the niche, no matter the experience, 30k in the next month. And the reason that I can say this so confidently is because I've generated coaches over £500,000 in revenue using the exact process that I'm about to share with you. So buckle in and enjoy it as I break down for you the 8 fundamental steps that I would take if I had to make 30k next month for a coach as if my life depended on it. So the first step that we need, very simply, step 1 of this process is defining a niche. Okay, now there's a common misconception around niche, people saying that it limits their success, limits who they can reach. But again, if I genuinely had to have my life dependent on the fact that I had to make a coach 30k next month, I would make sure and really drill into them who exactly is your customer avatar. Because having a clear defined niche allows you to connect with an audience quicker, allows for your messaging to land stronger, and overall just allows for you to have more success with any marketing campaign that you're doing. Again, if you're still in a place where you're watching this and you haven't defined your niche, then there's the reason that you're not getting as many clients as you want. As simple as that. Now, the way that I would do that and the way that I would help a coach define that is I would say I would help X person achieve Y outcome and overcome Z problem. So I would get a coach to define their niche within this category. Now, if they didn't have that niche understanding and definition, some questions that I would ask them to try and really get to the bottom of this is I would ask them who are their favorite types of people to work with, who do they have their most results with, what's their past experience, are they coaching from a place of experience, have they walked the same path as the client avatar? And I would try to really understand from asking these questions, what's the main person, who are they? So are they a athlete? Are they a banker? Are they a parent? Who is this person, right? That's the X that I would cover. I would then understand what is the main problem that they're facing in their life. So what's the biggest overarching challenge that this person is facing every single day that they want solved? And then overall, where do they want their life to look? What is the outcome and the transformation that they're looking for? Okay, that is the first step that I would take. I would intimately understand the niche and intimately understand the client avatar, because without this, you can't do anything essentially. Now, once I've defined the niche and I understood the client avatar, the second thing that I would do is something that not many people do, and it's actually looking at customer levels of awareness. So if you ever search up customer levels of awareness, there's usually a pyramid of the levels of awareness of a customer. And the awareness of the customer is just how aware that person is about the situation and the resolutions and the solutions to their problems, okay? So unaware is one level of the pyramid. So this is a client avatar who is unaware of their situation, unaware of what they can do to solve their problems, and probably sometimes unaware that they even have a problem, okay? The next level is problem aware. Okay, now problem aware is very simply a client avatar who understands that they have an issue, but they probably don't know quite yet how to actually solve that issue, very simply. The next level is solution aware. So this is somebody that understands they have a problem and understands that there are solutions out there for a problem. Next is product aware. So this is somebody who understands all of these things, plus they understand what your solution is. And the last one is most aware. So they understand everything about you, about your offer, and they're the people who are the most educated on your offer. Now, if we had to make 30k in sales next month, I personally would be targeting people who are solution aware and product aware. Okay, and this is the audience that you want to be targeting in your marketing campaign. Now, the way to target these people is when you're defining your niche up here, you really want to start looking at, okay, who are these people that are problem aware? What do they understand about their situations? So to give you a prime example of this, I've done it with multiple of my clients because it's a really big premise and issue. So currently I'm working with a trauma coach, okay, and she helps ladies who have experienced trauma, and she's been able to help them, and she's able to help them because she went through a traumatic experience herself. And when we were doing this level of customer awareness for her, she explained to me that at one point in her journey, she was unaware that really she had trauma. She was unaware that it was an issue and she didn't think anything of it. There was another point in her journey where she had a problem. She was aware she had the problem. She was aware she had the trauma, but she hadn't realized that there were solutions to it. As we got deeper into it, she then mentioned, right, before I solved it, I did begin to realize that there were then solutions to my issues. And so at each level of this awareness for this potential coach, and what happens with most client avatars, there's different language and words and things that we need to use to really show and to connect with the client avatar who is at this level of awareness, okay? Because people who are solution aware and problem aware, there's going to be a shorter sales cycle. You're going to have to do less selling and convincing, and they're overall just going to be a better client avatar to be bringing onto a call because they're going to be more educated. There's going to be more pain there to solve, and it's going to, like I say, just very simply make it easier to sell to them. So what you want to do is the next step is once you've understood your niche, you then want to break down the different levels of awareness. Now, mainly the first ones that you'd want to look at, because most people aren't going to be product aware or solution aware to begin with. So you'd want to look at these 3 layers to begin with and map out each step of this layer, exactly who your client avatar is, and try to understand the different language that you'll need to use to connect with different people. Okay, and so you want to try to avoid this bottom layer as a beginning when you're trying to do your marketing campaigns, because it's going to be harder to turn it around and harder to convince people. So a way that you can map this out is very simply put into ChatGPT as an easy one. Here's my client avatar, break down who that client avatar is, say to it you want to break down how to speak to the different levels of customer awareness within that client avatar, tell it what it needs to know to be able to do that. It will feed you the info and tell you what sort of words to avoid. Okay, that is the second thing that you need to do, very simply. Now, the third thing that you need to do is a competitor analysis. Now, not everybody is this going to matter for, but it's an important step to take. Again, if my life genuinely depended on me making this 30K, these are the exact steps that I would take to make sure that I'm covering every single aspect of what I need to do to give myself the best chance of making that, right? And the third thing, like I say, is a competitor analysis. Now, here's the thing, right? When you're marketing yourself and you're trying to advertise and get clients and bring people in, there are other people advertising to that audience as well. And the issue is that if you look the same or you sound the same or you're using the same things or doing the same things as all of your competition, there's very simply no reason as to why somebody would pick you over somebody else. And there's a really important concept called habituation, which we need to understand to overcome this. So think of it this way, right? Imagine in your office where you're sitting now, or where I'm sitting now, right? I'm sitting at a desk, okay? I'm sitting at this desk. And every time that I come into this office space that I'm in and I walked past this desk here, I don't consciously process that it's there because I've seen it so many times. I'm familiar with it. I've become habituated to it. It's a habit that I walk past this desk and this desk is always in the same spot. It's the exact same thing when you're marketing yourself and when you're advertising yourself. When your client avatar sees an advert or sees a marketing campaign or sees a piece of content that sounds and looks the same as everything else that they've constantly seen before from people who are trying to market to them, they get habituated to it. It becomes a habit that they've seen it. So it doesn't stop the scroll, they don't consciously process it, and you just get scrolled past like every other advert. So this is a really important step to take to make sure that you really pop out, you really stand out, and you really can make sure that you're differentiated from your competitors, and you can make sure you're getting your client avatar's attention. Okay, now the way very simply to do that is to do a few different things. First of all, understand your competitors' offer to the market. What are they offering? So what is their I help statement? So they're saying I help X person achieve Y outcome, overcome Z problem. What is their one of that? Okay. Second of all, what is their unique mechanism? Okay. So your unique mechanism, for example, is what are they positioning their solution as? For example, for me, most other people helping coaches will call it some type of funnel, right? What is the unique mechanism that they're positioning themselves as, right? What do they call themselves? What is their positioning? What do they call themselves? Do they call themselves a coach? Do they call themselves a consultant? Do they call themselves... Have a look at how they've positioned their name. And again, niche to niche, they might be calling themselves a sleep coach, etc., whatever that may be. Have a look at how they've positioned themselves. Then you want to understand their content. What are they focusing their content on? What topics do they talk about? What are the recurring themes that they use, right? And from looking at the content, you want to understand what keywords are they constantly using, okay? So to give you an example, when I did this for myself, the constant thing that I saw from my competitors is that they were promising 20K a month, for example, or they were using the words scale, or they kept using the words like funnel, for example. Okay, so these are all this sort of the analysis that I've done, and I'll explain how we use this momentarily. So that's another thing. Look at their content and understand the keywords they're using. And lastly, have a look at what type of ads they're running, if any. And if they are running ads, you really want to look at what they're offering, if they're sending them to a landing page or if they're sending them to something else. Okay, you want to then have a look at their hooks, etc., etc. So these are the things you want to look at, and you want to build up a document. And if you want, I've created a document on this which I use for the coaches that I work with. So if you want to get your hands on this document so you can understand what to fill out on here, my Instagram's below. Just drop me a message and say you're looking for the competitor analysis document. But essentially what you want to do is that once you've gathered all of these things, okay, you then want to understand how can you be different. So they're going this way with this, you want to go this way. Now the reason for that, again, is like I said, this habituation concept. If you sound and look the same like every other coach, so this is coach one, this is coach two, if you keep following every other person who's copying coach one, but then you go and be different and become your own coach two, that's going to put you in a market of one. It's going to help you to stand out, and it's going to make sure that you don't fall into this trap of just the same old noise that they constantly hear every single day. And so what I did for myself is this exact process, right? So these keywords that I found for myself, 20K a month, scale, funnel, these are banned from my vocabulary. You'll never hear me promising 20K a month or 10K a month or 30K a month. You'll never hear me telling people how to scale their business. You'll never see me talking about a funnel, because these are keywords that all of my competitors use. And by me not saying that, it makes me sound different. And this year, I honestly can't tell you how many people have jumped on discovery calls with me and have just gone, I'm only here because you didn't promise me some crazy amount of revenue a month. I'm only here because you don't promise some new fancy funnel, right? And this is the power of it. So this is the next step of what I would do. And then once I've got all of this information and I understand how I can be different, this will be then tied into my content and my adverts, right? So the next step that I would then take is I would make sure that I look like an expert, okay? So here's the thing, right? We're now going to start moving into the more of the client acquisition side of things. But before you can actually start acquiring customers, people need to see you as the go-to expert. See, at the moment on the online space in general, no matter your niche, trust is at an all-time low because there are so many idiots just offering rubbish to the market. So trust is at an all-time low. So for us to be seen as somebody worth buying from, we need to be seen as the go-to expert on a problem. Okay, this is where the niche comes in, and this is where all the other elements that I've just showed you tie in together as well. So the way to position yourself as an expert is to create a social media page which acts as a shop front, so to speak. So if you think of it this way, right? An in-person brick and mortar business, let's imagine this is a shop front, has a sign here and they have products in their display window, right? And people that are walking past the shop front see the products, see the sign, know what the shop is about, and they come in and they explore the products, they test them out. It builds value with the target customer because they can see it before buying, and it builds that trust for them to then purchase. So we want to do the exact same thing. Now, obviously, as online businesses, we don't have this physical in-person business, but what we do have is something called social media. So imagine now that this is your Instagram page, this is your profile picture, this is your bio. I recommend using Instagram for all coaches, just the best platform for advertising, marketing, and messaging leads. Right? So your bio, very simply, you want to show who you help and how you help them, using your I help statement and avoiding any common keywords that you've seen from competitors. Your profile picture, you want a nice, clean, professional headshot. Your story, you want to fill it with client results, any messages that they've sent you, any deals that they've closed, any kind words that they've sent you, any progress that they've made. Fill up your stories with testimonials and results and share a bit about your life. Then at the top of your page, you want to pin your story. So share where you were before coaching, your transformation, and where you are now, so people can resonate with you, because people buy the coach, not the coaching. I'd then share all of my testimonials again here. If I could get video interviews, I would pin that at the top also. And then lastly, I would share what my unique mechanism is. And again, I'd make sure and speak against these things that they've talked about, the unique mechanism that my competitors have spoke about. So for example, for me, a good hook that I would use is I would start throwing rocks at my enemies. So this is a marketing concept where you speak out against things that your client avatar doesn't like. So for example, the coaches that I work with, they're all fed up of fancy funnels. Okay, they're all fed up of being promised a funnel that's going to save their business and bring them 20K a month. So my last pin post could be a carousel talking about, here's why funnels are killing your coaching business. That I'm throwing a rock at a funnel, so I'm talking against it and how it's going to harm them. It's going to capture my client avatar's attention because they also don't like funnels. And then I can slowly start talking about why funnels don't work, why they're not optimal, why they've been stuck where they are with them. And then I can introduce my unique mechanism and how it's different. Then the rest of my content, what I would do very simply is this. I would understand my target avatar has a big problem in the middle of their life. What makes up that problem are loads of little micro problems, okay? So for example, the big overarching problem I'm solving for coaches is getting clients. What makes that up is they don't know how to run ads. They don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to sell themselves. They don't know how to define a niche. They don't know how to create content. And so what I do is I create content on all of these micro problems. And I'd give tips, tricks, insights, advice, guidance, and ways of thinking on these topics to make sure that I am seen as the go-to expert and to give genuine value to my target audience. So the idea of that now is that when these people come on my page, they see me as the go-to expert, they trust me because I've got tons of results on my page, they can see that I resonate with them because I've walked the same path that they've walked down, right? I've also creating content, giving value for free on all of their specific micro problems, like treat them as your products in the display window, which again helps me to be seen as the expert, and it builds that trust, right? And if you've ever gone onto somebody's page and gone, right, I want to work with this person, they get me, I want to help them, this is exactly what they're doing. And this is exactly what I would do, again, if I had to do that. Now, the reason we don't just run ads on their own is because, again, trust is at an all-time low. People need to see who you are. People need to see the face behind the brand. People need to connect with the coach because people buy the coach, not the coaching. And again, look, the coaching industry is growing over £1 billion in size year on year. That only accounts for accredited coaches. That's not all the other people who haven't got accreditations that are coaching. So what that means for you is that there are tons of people coming into the market trying to sell as well. So if you don't look like an expert, if you don't position yourself in a market of one, by positioning yourself as the go-to person, you are going to struggle, very simply. Now, once we've built out this shop front, right, and once people have a way to find us and see that we are the go-to person to fix their specific issue, and we sound different from our competitors because we've done all of this, and we know exactly who we're talking to and speaking to avatars who are actually aware of their problems and ready for change, the next thing we need to do is to generate leads. Okay, that is now step 5 of the process, is how do we now generate leads. Now, to generate leads and to find potential clients, there's essentially 2 ways. You can take the cold route and you can take the hot route. Now, if I had to make 30k next month, I would take both routes. So first of all, let's look at the hot route. Hot route are hot leads, hot people that already know you, people that already have a familiarity with you and already know about what you're offering, etc., etc. So the first thing that I would do is I would look at my network, I would look at my referrals, I would look at my email list, and I would also look at my audiences if I've already built some, and I would go through all of these areas and I would outreach and connect with every single person that is in these areas that I know is my client avatar. Okay, so if I've built up a social media page already with a bit of an audience of people who are interested in my stuff, I'd reach out to each and every single person, which I'll show you how to do just after this in the next step, and I'd see if there was any space to help them. Again, if I had my email list, again, I'll do the same thing. If I had a referral base, again, I would ask around, okay? And this is something that a lot of people don't do. If you know somebody that has an issue, ask them if they know somebody else. Just ask people that you know, whether it's network or referrals or past referrals, whatever it is, just ask people that you know that are immediately in your vicinity if they know anybody who is experiencing this problem. So what you could do is for your network and for past referrals, right, is you could say to people, do you know anyone that is X person with Y problem and wants Z transformation? I'm offering free calls to see how I could help them achieve that. Okay? We're just tying in our client avatar that we've linked there. So you could ask that to people that you know. Again, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I would go and ask everybody that I knew who potentially may know someone this question and offer that person a reward for connecting me, like a 10% referral fee, and I would explain to them the benefit of what the other person would get. Again, email list. If I have a list of people who already know, like, and trust me and are my client avatar, I do the same thing. I send out free emails offering free value of some sort, right? And if they took that value, I would then call up those people or email them if I had their contact details again and try and then convince them for a call. So I'd leverage this audience and I would see what I could do. Again, same with an audience. If I had like an Instagram audience already, for example, I would go through all of my current people in that audience and I'd start conversations with these people, see what their situation is, see if there is some way that I can help them, etc., etc. Right? So this is the first route that I would take to find leads. Leverage what you've got, whether that's your network, whether that's referrals or past referrals, and asking for referrals and give incentives for people to give you referrals. I then look at what I already had as well. Like I say, do you have an email list? Leverage them, offer them values, try and book them in for calls. Do I already have an audience on a platform? Again, offer them free value, build up the law of reciprocity, which states that if you give, people feel like they have to give something back to you. So if you give, and then ask for a call, they're more likely to take it. So this is the first thing that I would take. Now, the next route I would take is obviously the cold route, because hot traffic and people that know you will only take you so far, because everybody only knows a certain amount of people. So cold is the next step is exactly how I would find the rest of my audience and the rest of potential leads, is by running ads, very simply. Okay. Now you could do cold outreach, right? You could do organic content, but the issue with that is one, with cold outreach, a lot of coaches, depending on their niche, can't find the people online. So like for me, I could go in and type in on LinkedIn coaches, and a list of thousands of coaches could come up, and I could cold outreach to all of them. I could do that. But the thing is, a lot of coaches who, for example, are helping people that are traumatized, going back to the other coach that I'm helping currently, she can't find her client avatars in that way, because nobody publicly states that they're traumatized on their profiles. So you can't do that, right? And again, like I'm helping a coach currently who helps people who are in midlife who are burnt out. You can't find that on your profile. Okay. Now you could do that with organic content. The problem is with organic content is that coaches aren't marketers. Coaches don't want to be dancing on camera to get attention. And with organic content, it's hard to get views. And if you get views, it's hard to know that you're getting the right views. So essentially, the best way to do it and the quickest way is ads. Now, what I would do is I would set aside an ad budget, and I would run ads to this shop front that I've built. Okay, so you can do typical funnel ads where you generate leads, you ask for the name, the email, the phone number, you give them a PDF, an ebook, a lead magnet in exchange for it, whatever that may be. But the issue is, when you do it this way, people don't really know who you are, and people never really get to build that trust with you. So they might claim your freebie, but it's going to be next to near impossible to actually build their trust. So instead, what I like to use are adverts which accommodate the beaker approach, which is something that I've created. So funnels are just a concept to lead generation, and they state you send people down your funnel and in the hope of converting some of them. But by the nature of the funnel, with the actual physical hole it has in the bottom, you lose a lot of the leads that you generate. And if you've ever used a funnel before, you will understand that you run ads to these people and a lot of them just disappear and you never hear from them. So beaker style of ads are where you send people. It's a different type and different concept of lead generation, is where you send people into your beaker, into your ecosystem, with the understanding that they're never going to leave. They're always going to be there to be nurtured, and they're never going to disappear. Okay. Now, the way that we would do that is we would run ads into this shop front that we built. So the call to action that we're running on these ads, instead of, like I say, offering lead magnets, PDFs, ebooks, we are saying, look, let's go to the top here. If you're X person with Y problem looking for Z outcome, long story short, follow me. Come on my page. I'm providing tons of free value to help you with this problem. Now, what's going to happen is that you're going to get leads, which are going to average out, when I see on average for these campaigns, about 50 pence a lead, right? Coming in here, following you, seeing your story, seeing your results, seeing your unique mechanisms, seeing your expertise, and following you. So what you're going to be getting every day is a minimum of 20 to 30 dream leads on a daily basis, dependent on your budget, that are your dream leads, that are there ready for you to convert. Okay, so this is what I would actually do mainly. Once I've leveraged the people that I know, this is how I would generate more leads. Okay, and it's a really, really simple process. Generate these leads. And in terms of then budget, what I then understand is I'd understand the price point of what I'm selling. So what I'd understand is if I'm selling something for 3K, I'd understand I want to make at least a 2x ROAS. Okay, 2x return on my ad spend, right? So what I'm aiming for when I'm tracking my advertising metrics is I want to make at least 1.5k profit, or my costs for my ads can be at least 1.5k before I make one sale. So if my close rate's really bad and I'm closing 1 out of 10 calls, right, I need my cost per call to be £150. Because if every £150 I'm getting, I'm landing a call, then essentially what that means is I'll have 10 calls at £1,500. One of those will convert for 3k and I'll make a 2x return. And then what I would do is that once I've made my first sale and I understand my cost to acquire a customer from my adverts, right? Because running ads is just a maths game. So essentially what that means is that once you spend £200 and you sign a client, what that means is that every £200 you spend, you will acquire a customer. So what I would do if I had to make 30k in a month from this is that every £200 I spent on my ads, is that once I understand my cost per customer, I would backwards engineer how much I needed to make. So let's say I wanted to make 30k in the month, like we said, right? And then let's say that, like we say, my package is 3K, so I need to sell 10 packages to make that 30K. Okay? Now, what that means is if my cost per acquisition is £200, like we said up here, essentially what I know is that one customer cost me £200. So to get 10, I just do 200 times 10. Okay? Very simply, that is 2K. So I know if I spend 2K on ads, I will make 30K. And that is exactly what I would do with my advertising. Now, that's just from advertising alone. Who knows what you get when you leverage your already existing network? Okay, so this is how I would use ads, and this is the approach, the type of ads I would run, how I would approach them, and mathematically how I would do it to make sure I'm getting the leads and the clients that I want. Okay, and so what that then means for us is the next step, 6, is now booking calls. Okay, because look, what we're going to do here, I've jumped a little bit here because I've just shown you the maths of how to get these clients. But once we've generated all these leads and we've got them in our beaker, it's not just magically going to convert, and this magically isn't going to happen. We first of all got to understand how to book calls. So essentially how this would work is that once we've got these people that have followed us, right, because we've set ourselves up and positioned ourselves as an expert, and because we're controlling the traffic that's coming to us through an advert, and we're speaking to a very specific client avatar, somebody who is X person with Y problem and wants Z transformation, and it's somebody who's problem and solution aware like we went to earlier, they're following us for a reason. So they are a lead. So now what we want to do is we want to reach out to each and every person and we want to book them in for a call. Okay, and the way that you would then do that is by reaching out to them and just saying something like, "Hi name, nice to connect. Are you here for the content or are you looking for help with XYZ problem?" Really, just as simple as that. It's just a simple open-ended question. Now, majority of people are then going to respond to you and tell you their situation. Okay, they're going to tell you their situation. And now from there, the flow of how you get somebody to book in a call, right, once they've followed you and once they're a lead, and again, obviously this is going to be in your Instagram DMs, is you follow this flow. So first of all, you find their situation, then you find their problem, then you find how the problem's affecting them, then you find their goals, then you find why they want to achieve those goals, then you see if they're open to support on this, or if they're planning to do it alone, or if they have a plan at all, and then you pitch them from a call. And this is the exact flow that I've used and I've taught all of the coaches that I'm working with to booking calls on Instagram with their potential leads. And yeah, the coaches all combined, all the coaches that I'm working with, we're probably booking about 200-300 calls a month, all of them combined. So this is the flow that I would then use to then start to get people booked in for a call. Now, this then leads me to my next step, right? So now we've generated the leads. We've understood how we're going to get these people in for calls. The next step is making sure that they show up for the calls. Okay, because this is obviously an issue. You can book as many calls as you want. If nobody's turning up, if nobody's showing, then it's a waste of time. Now, the way that I would get people to show, very simply, is I'd create a simple reminder sequence. Because again, if nobody's showing up, there's no calls to be taken, there's no money to be made. So I'd create a simple reminder sequence. So I would send out emails and text messages 5 days before, 1 day before, an hour before, 15 minutes before, as a minimum. This would be my reminder sequence. A day before, I would get them to confirm, and I would manually text them or call them and make sure that they're turning up and they've received all the links properly. Okay, so this is the bare minimum reminder sequence that you should use. In terms of also making sure that people show up for calls, make sure that you don't book them in longer than 7 to 10 days out. The further out the call is, the further out reason they realize why they book, the longer the time you have, the more emotion gets worn off, there's less reason for them to show up, etc., etc. And so this is what I would do to make sure that people showed up for the calls that I was running. Now, not only that, but the other thing that I would send them is pre-call assets. So I would create a very short video which breaks down my process from back to front, okay? And it would show to them who I am, it would show to them my results, it would show to them my story, and it would show to them my unique process. And I would get people to watch this, and I would make sure that they watched it before our call together, because what that would do is that it would get them bought into me, my results, my story, and my unique process even more. So when they come on the call, they're already educated and I don't really have to do much selling, okay? And it would also ensure that they turn up, because what we're doing here is we're adding commitments, right? So we're adding steps. So they have to manually confirm with us that they're joining. They have to watch a video with us before joining the call. As well as that, the other thing that I would recommend is I would also recommend that you have a form that you get them to fill out, which gets them to break down a bit about their situation, how committed they are to going ahead, when they're looking to get started with something, why it's come up now as important, what their main problem is that they're hoping you can solve for them. So what we're doing is, by adding all of these steps, we're creating friction and we're creating touch points and we're creating commitment points. Now, for somebody to confirm manually that they're joining, for somebody to watch a 20 to 30 minute video of your process and understand what it is, and to manually fill out a form to then get them that they have to fill out before the call, that's going to ensure that they turn up for that call, because nobody's going to take all of these steps and then not turn up. It's very simply a waste of time. So this is what I would then do to make sure that people showed up, because you've got no one showing up for your calls. Doesn't matter how good your calls are going to be. If nobody's there, you've got nothing to sell. Okay? And now this leads me to step 8 and the final step of the process, which is actually then converting calls. Okay? Making the sale. So very simply, the way that you want to run your discovery calls is you want to set the frame. So you want to let people know that it's your call, you're going to run it, you're going to see if you can help them. If you can't help them, you will let them know. If you can help them, if they want to, you'll break down how you can do that. The first thing you'll do is you'll do a discovery phase, okay? Now, in your discovery phase, you're doing 2 things. You're building up a case of them so that you can understand their situation, their problems, and so that you can build up emotion in them, right? And the last thing you're doing is you're removing objections. Now, the issue is, what a lot of coaches don't do on their calls is they don't remove objections or red flags. So what I mean by that is if somebody comes on the call and they tell you they don't have a lot of time, they're not sure when they want to get started, blah, 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 that is a red flag. That is a reason why somebody may not buy here and now. And so that's going to potentially take the risk of you not making a sale. So what I do on my calls is that if I hear red flags, I remove them there and then instead of letting them come up as objections later on. So a prime example of that is I got on a call with a coach just before the summer holidays. So this was right at the start of June. And we got on the call together and they were telling me that they're not sure when they wanted to go ahead or when they wanted to get started because the school holidays were coming up and their kids were off school. And very simply what I said to them was, to remove this objection, is I said, no worries. So just out of curiosity, if I brought you 5 clients right now that were willing to pay you, would you turn them away and tell them that the school holidays were coming up? And they were like, no, I wouldn't. I would take them on board. So I was like to them, so is it a case of that you don't have time, or is it a case of that you're just not prioritizing this right now? And they were like, well, no, I do have the time. I need to prioritize it. And that person went from giving me an objection in discovery to then buying. So this is the first thing that I would do in discovery, is really build up emotion, really dig deep, constantly ask why they want the thing that they want, how it's been affecting them, understand the situation, and remove any reasons that they won't buy. The next step I would take is I would transition into my pitch. I'd let them know I could help them. I'd share that conviction with them that I have that belief in myself that I can help them. Then I'd break down what it is I offer. Now, the best way to pitch is to understand that people buy on their terms, not yours. So the way that I pitch, and I teach everyone else to pitch, which is absolutely killer, is the 1, 2, 3 pitch structure. So here's what I mean. During your discovery, you should break down 3 things that the person has told you they want help with. So for example, a coach might tell me that they need help with niche. They may tell me they need help with ads, and they may tell me they need help with sales. In my pitch, all you're doing is I'm reciting back to them what they've told me that they need help with. Again, people buy on their terms, not yours. They don't want to hear how your process works. They don't want to hear any of the details. They just want to know, can you help me with the things that I've told you I'm struggling with? So what I would do, again, like I say, on my calls is break down and essentially recite to them how I could help them. So I'd say something like, so remember how you told me you're struggling with your niche? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is very simply show you how to actually properly define a niche that brings you high quality leads who are ready to buy and who want to work on themselves. And I'll break down a little bit about what that would look like for them and how it would benefit them and how it would link to the outcome that they want. But your pitch, all you're doing is reciting back to them what they've told you. Now, the last thing I would do on my calls is I'd do a temperature check. So I'd see where they're at. And so I'd say to them on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you say you're at? 1 being this is a load of rubbish, get me off. 10 being I love this, I want to go ahead. If they gave me an 8 or below, I'd understand what the gap is and try to address that objection. Once I've addressed that, I would then go for the close. If they didn't go ahead straight away, I would then objection handle them. Now, the best way to handle objections, if you properly follow this flow, is to understand that objections, very simply, no matter whether they tell you they want to think about it, they want to talk to their partner, the dog's got to go to the vet, they'll get back to you shortly. No matter what they tell you, objections come down to 2 things, fear and logistics. Okay, so at the end of your call, if you ask somebody to go ahead, A percent of people will go ahead, and well done. You're now well on the path to that 30k, and that's what I would do to get onto that path of 30k for a coach as well. But if I didn't get that, I would then separate it into two things. Is it fear or is it logistical? Okay, so fear, they're scared to make the investment. Logistics, they don't have the money. So the question to ask to separate this and to understand the real concern is to say, so just based on the actual structure that I've showed you and what I'd offer you and how I'd help you, do you believe this can genuinely help you? Okay, then if they do, I would say why? And I'd get them to sell me on why they think it would, so they're selling themselves. And then the key question that I would ask, that everyone should be asking at the end of their calls if they're getting any objection, is, so is it a case of that you have the money, you're just unsure if you want to do it? Or is it the case of that you 110% in, you just don't have the full investment right now? And it's very simple from that point on. Because what you do is you remove and you bypass that whole objection that they've just given you. So then if they tell you if it's logistical and they just don't have the money, you give them a payment plan and you find a solution for them. And if it's fear-based, you understand what the fear is, you understand where it's coming from, what's causing it, and you share with them a perspective to help them to overcome that, give them that confidence, and do what you can to help them feel confident in you and your services. Now, that is the exact process that I would take to make 30k for any coach next month if my life depended on it. That is exactly that. And this is the exact flow that I've used for all of my clients to make them over £500,000 in revenue, right? It's dead simple, but these are the exact steps. And genuinely, like if somebody was stood right here, right now with a gun to my head saying, you have to make this coach 30k next month, these are the exact steps that I would take. And I wouldn't do anything different to what I've just showed you there. So I hope you found that useful. I hope that gave you something to think about. And I hope that gave you a lot of insight into a proper client acquisition flow and system. So if you've got any questions at all about that, my Instagram is below. Feel free to reach out and ask me any questions. As well as that, if you want to see how this flow would work for you and how it could get you to your goals within your coaching business, then you're going to see links below where you can book a call with me. So feel free to do so.